Hey everyone, ready to dive into a story that'll send chills down your spine?
Ooh, I love a good spine tingler. What have we got today?
We're headed to India, to an abandoned village called Kuldhara.
Kuldhara.
Yeah, it was deserted overnight over 200 years ago, and it's supposedly cursed. Like, no one can live there.
A cursed village. Okay, you've got my attention. I'm intrigued.
Imagine this, a whole village bustling one day, completely empty the next.
Ooh,
Belongings left behind, houses still standing,
that's spooky.
but not a single soul in sight.
So what happened? Why'd everyone just leave?
That's what we're going to untangle today. We're going to look at the history, the legends,
Right?
and maybe even some science.
I like where this is going. It's like stepping into a time capsule, but one with creepy whispers and unsettling stories.
You're telling me. It'll make you think twice about visiting after dark.
So are we talking ghost sightings? Unexplained noises?
Our sources mention everything from footsteps when no one's around to shadowy figures flitting through the ruins.
No way.
Some even say they've seen lights flickering.
Like the village is trying to communicate.
Exactly. But before we get into all that, let's set the stage. Tell me about Kuldhara before it turned into a ghost town. What was it like?
So picture this. The Thar Desert, scorching sun, windswept dunes, a harsh environment.
Right, I can picture it.
And smack in the middle of that, you had Kuldhara, founded way back in the 13th century by the Paliwal Brahmins.
The Paliwal Brahmins.
Yeah, and they didn't just survive in this harsh environment, they flourished. They had these amazing irrigation systems, so they could grow crops where others struggled.
Wow.
They were skilled artisans, traders, builders. They turned this challenging landscape into a busy center of activity.
So we're talking about a prosperous community, not one that would just pack up and leave.
Exactly.
So what happened? What could make an entire village just disappear?
Well, the sources all point to one figure.
Salim Singh?
Salim Singh. Yeah, he was a powerful minister in Jaisalmer, notorious for his ruthlessness.
Sounds like trouble.
The legend goes that he became obsessed with the village head's daughter, demanded her hand in marriage.
Uh-oh.
When his advances were rejected, he threatened the villagers with crushing taxes, basically holding their livelihood hostage.
A classic power struggle with the villagers caught in the middle.
Exactly.
So what did they do?
They made a decision that still baffles historians. They vanished.
Vanished. Like just up and left.
Overnight, the whole village. Imagine it. Families packing, hushed whispers under the moonlit sky, a caravan of carts disappearing into the darkness.
Wow, that image is both haunting and inspiring. Just walk away from everything you know. What a decision.
It wasn't just about escaping a tyrant. It was about their unity, their determination to keep their freedom and dignity.
Even if it meant leaving their home.
Exactly. They chose an uncertain future over oppression. That tells you something about the Paliwal Brahmin.
It really does. But it also sets the scene for the eerie stuff we're about to explore. It's like that night is woven into the fabric of Kuldhara.
It's like the village itself is holding its breath, waiting to exhale the secrets of its past.
And to get a glimpse into those secrets, we have to look at the account of David Carter, a paranormal investigator who went to Kuldhara expecting to debunk some myths.
A paranormal investigator, huh? And what happened?
He left with a very different perspective.
Interesting. So he went in skeptical, but something changed his mind.
You could say that. But before we jump into his experience, tell me, are there things that make people feel spooked in places like this? Especially a place with such a heavy history.
That's a good question. Well, our minds are really susceptible to suggestion, especially in environments that are already kind of mysterious and steeped in folklore.
So if you go to Kuldhara already believing it's cursed, you might be looking for things that confirm that belief.
You got it. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Makes sense. Okay, I'm even more curious about David's experience now. You said he was shaken. What happened?
Well, imagine stepping into Kuldhara. The sun's beating down on the ruins, but instead of feeling warmth, David describes a chilling silence.
Like an oppressive stillness.
Exactly. He said he felt watched as he walked through the abandoned homes.
I bet.
Like the narrow alleyways were closing in on him, even though there's a vast desert all around.
That's creepy.
And then, as the sun started to set, David started hearing whispers.
Whispers.
At first, he thought it was just the wind.
Right, that makes sense.
But as they got louder, they started sounding more like conversations.
Wow.
But he couldn't make out any actual words.
Like the village itself was waking up, whispering secrets?
Exactly. It gets even creepier.
Okay, did he actually see anything?
As darkness fell, he saw a figure in the distance. A woman in a white sari,
Oh, wow.
Her outline was faint, but he said it was definitely there.
A woman in white in an abandoned village? That's straight out of a ghost story.
Right. And remember, this is a trained investigator. He knows how light and shadow can play tricks on the eye.
So he was convinced this was real. What did he do?
He just froze. A mix of curiosity and terror, I imagine.
I can only imagine.
The figure stayed for a few moments, then vanished. Just like that.
Leaving David alone in the dark with the whispers.
And the weight of Kuldhara's history. And that wasn't even the creepiest part. It gets even weirder for David.
Oh no. Weirder than a ghostly woman appearing. I'm not sure I'm ready for this.
Well, after the woman vanished, he said that feeling of being watched got even stronger.
Like unseen eyes were on him?
Oh,
man.
Exactly. And it went beyond just a feeling.
What do you mean?
He talked about the atmosphere actually changing, like a heaviness pressing down on him.
That's giving me chills just hearing about it. Did he say anything else about the whispers?
Oh yeah, they didn't stop. In fact, they seemed to get louder and more urgent.
Like they were trying to warn him about something. Okay, now I'm officially spooked. So what did he do? Did he finally get out of there?
Well, he tried to stick it out, but then things took a really scary turn. He was standing near the village temple.
Oh no. In the dark, with those whispers all around.
Yeah, and that's when he felt it. A cold hand brushing against his shoulder.
Whoa, hold on. Did he actually see someone touch him?
That's the thing. He spun around expecting to see someone standing there.
Right.
But there was no one.
No one. But he felt it. That is seriously creepy.
It freaked him out, and I don't blame him. Even David, with all his experience investigating paranormal stuff, was shaken by that. He said it terrified him.
I bet. So did he leave after that?
He got out of there as fast as he could. But even after he left Kuldhara, he still felt that uneasy feeling, like something was watching him.
Wow. So we've got this firsthand account from David, but are there other stories about Kuldhara, other legends that have been passed down?
Oh, tons. David's experience is just one piece of the puzzle. There are all these local stories and legends that have been told for generations.
What kind of stories?
Well, some say that villagers tried to come back after the Exodus, but bad things happened to them. Or they were chased away by unseen forces.
Sounds like something out of a horror movie. Any other spooky tales?
Some people say they've seen strange lights dancing around the ruins at night. Others say they've heard ghostly music coming from the temple.
So many creepy stories. It seems like at a place like Kuldhara, history and folklore really get mixed up.
Right. It's like the village itself is a canvas for people to express their feels and beliefs about the unknown. But before we get too caught up in all the spooky stuff, I think it's important to step back for a second.
Yeah, make a point.
We can't just assume that Kuldhara is actually cursed.
Right. So what are some possible explanations for what David and others have experienced?
Well, for one thing, Kuldhara is in the middle of a harsh desert. There are temperature changes, strong winds, sand shifting around. All that can create weird sounds and illusions.
So maybe the whispers were just the wind.
Yeah.
And the ghostly figures were just shadows.
Exactly. Plus, our brains are wired to find patterns, even when they're not really there.
So in a place like Kuldhara, with its spooky history, it's easy to misinterpret what you see and hear.
Totally. But what about the feeling of being watched or touched? Those are a bit harder to explain, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. What about those?
Well, remember we talked about priming.
Yeah, how David went there already knowing about the curse and all the stories.
Right. So his mind might have been expecting to see or feel something supernatural.
And that could have made him more likely to interpret things that way.
Exactly. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But even with all that said, there are still some things that are hard to explain, like that cold touch on his shoulder.
Yeah, that one is definitely hard to shrug off.
Right. It suggests something more than just his imagination, something that crosses the line between what we can explain and what's still a mystery.
And that's what makes Kuldhara so fascinating. It challenges us to think about what we know and what we don't. Is it really cursed? Or is it all in our heads?
Exactly. And sometimes the questions that don't have answers are the most interesting.
True. But before we move on, I want to learn more about the Paywall Brahmins.
Oh, yeah, good point.
We talked about the resilience in their exodus, but what about their culture and beliefs? Their story seems really important.
Absolutely. They were more than just the victims of a tyrant. They were a vibrant community with a rich history. And to understand the curse, we need to understand them.
Okay, so tell me more about the people who built and ultimately left this village.
So the Paliwal Brahmins they were more than just good farmers and artisans.
Right.
They had deep traditions, a strong spiritual side, and a real respect for nature. All that probably played a big role in their decision to leave Kuldhara.
Okay, I'm fascinated by that connection between their beliefs and leaving like they did. What do we know about their spiritual practices? Or how they understood curses?
Unfortunately, the sources we have don't go into a ton of detail about their specific religious beliefs.
Right.
But we do know they were Brahmins.
Which means?
It means they were part of the priestly caste in Hinduism, so they probably followed a mix of Vedic traditions and local folk beliefs.
Interesting. So, is it possible that they believed in curses? Like, really believed in them?
Oh, definitely possible. In many cultures, curses are seen as a way to protect sacred places or punish people who do wrong.
So they might have seen Salim Singh's actions as a violation, something that could only be fixed by leaving the village.
Yeah, that's a solid theory. It's like they were reclaiming their power, not just physically, but spiritually too.
By leaving a place that had been tainted. Wow. It makes you think about what it must have been like to just walk away from generations of history. Their homes, the land.
Right. It was a huge sacrifice. But for them, leaving wasn't just about abandoning buildings. It was about breaking free from a place that represented oppression.
It's both tragic and powerful. Their story really highlights how resilient people can be.
Totally. They stuck together as a community and faced the unknown rather than give in.
Incredible. So they leave this village full of their history and traditions, and it becomes this ghost town. Do you think they're leaving the way it happened could have contributed to all the spooky stuff people report?
That's a tough one to answer for sure.
Right.
But it is tempting to connect their traumatic departure with the eerie feeling of the place.
Like the village absorbed all that pain and loss.
Right. A whole community ripped from its roots, forced to give up everything. That kind of collective pain could linger, even affect things beyond the physical world.
So it's not just about ghosts.
Maybe not. It could be about the weight of history, the echoes of those emotions.
It adds a whole other layer to those whispers and shadows, doesn't it?
It really does. Whether we see those things as supernatural or just in our minds, they remind us of the real human stories behind this place.
Kuldhara is more than just an empty village.
Exactly. It's a reminder of the people who lived there, people who wouldn't compromise their values, even when facing impossible odds.
It makes you wonder, what would you feel if you visited Kuldhara?
Good question.
Would you sense that history? Be spooked by the silence? Or would you feel a connection to the Paliwal Brahmins? Their courage?
That's what's so amazing about stories like this. They spark our curiosity, make us question things, and they connect us to history in a deeper way.
So we've dug into the history, the legends, even the possible science.
Wow.
But the real mystery of Kuldhara remains.
It's a place where the past refuses to be forgotten, and that's what makes it so captivating.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Thar Desert.
It was my pleasure.
And until next time, keep exploring the mysteries all around us.